On today's episode of Kung Fu Hot Dog.
Hey boss, I got you a coffee.
Did you bring an extra slurp of milk with that cup? Or do I have to even ask? And in the wise words of the Gibson brothers, ¿Qué será mi vida? How I'm gonna live without your love if you should ever go. ¿Qué será mi vida? Well, you can tell I'm on the jazz today if I'm going back to my disco roots of the 1980s. And today, folks, I've got 3 words for you. ESG. Well, that's actually just one word made up of 3 characters. But guess what? It's dying. And that's a good thing.
Jason King.
A man barely alive. Gentlemen, we can rebuild him.
I got you, buddy. You've got me! Who's got you?
Feeling sad? Then watch Jason King, your happy pill.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this person right here is called Tariq Fancy, wearing a blue linen suit and a nice shirt to match underneath. Why do I bring him up? He used to be an employee with Blackrock. You know, the same Blackrock that has trillions of dollars at its disposal and has been run into the ground by none other than Larry Fink himself. You know, the gentleman that likes to force ESG behaviors down people's throats. I'm going to do this today. I'm going to make sure you hire this person of that color and this person because of their sexuality. But
companies, you have to force behaviors, and at Blackrock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year, and what we're doing internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. Okay,
we're doing the same thing.
And so it's just you have to force behaviors, and if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
This is really encouraging news. Is it great news? No, but I'm glad it's been acknowledged. So what Tariq Fancy says here is that, well, basically, when you look into ESG, it is what it is. It's a marketing strategy. It's a ploy. It's not really a God-given political agenda that you have to force companies to do now, because I'm telling you what, the way the economic growth and decline of certain industries is going, we can all blame it on ESG if you're telling companies every year that they have to employ X, Y, and Z people. Otherwise, they're not going to get so much funding the next year after, are they? I think it's a really terrible message to be sending out. So ESG, a catch-all term that has swallowed a range of supposedly ethical business practices, has become a cultural issue across the Western world. Now, this article on City AM is by a guy called Charlie Conchi, and I was wondering if he was consciously enough to learn that there is a political culture war going on. And to his credit, he's acknowledged it here. Florida governor and failed presidential candidate Ron DeSantis, of course, they had to get the failed bit in there, didn't they?
We fight the woke in the legislature. We fight the woke in the schools. We fight the woke in the corporations. We will never, ever surrender. Florida is where woke goes to die.
Recently criticized Blackrock for using its economic power to instill a left-wing agenda. A Texas school fund told Blackrock last month it was terminating their contract to manage around $8.5 billion of state money, accusing the $10 trillion firm of boycotting fossil fuel energy producers. In its closely watched letter to the CEOs in 2022, BlackRock's boss Larry Fink peppered the message with reference to ESG, sustainable investing, and equality. Which is really funny because if you know all the rumors that are going around now, well, probably last year, I don't know if it's going to be prevalent in 2024, but ESG is supposed to encourage the aviation industry to hire pilots who are of diversity, who are of different sexualities, who may not have much flight experience, but we're going to put them in a cockpit of a $30 million passenger airliner and fly people across the ocean. I think at that stage the plane is going straight into the ocean. So I think it's hilarious. And also on page 3 of today's edition of City AM is this lovely lady right here. Now, when I think about page 3, I think of the sun and a lovely topless woman showing off her bare knockers to the world and just to awaken each and every young boy's fantasy back in the day. But the reason why I point this lady out now, it's not her fault. She's actually emblazoned on this ad. This is ESG, folks. This is for eBay. And of course, the reason is that basically, if you don't force ESG behaviors on people like eBay, they're not going to get money for the next year, are they? So you have to force this type of behavior just to say, look, we're covering all the diversities and representatives and genders that you've asked us to do, right? So apart from that, I've also got to bring up Fallout, the TV show. So I'm only halfway through episode 1, but dear God, did I see the ESG in the first 5 minutes of episode 1. It was not subtle at all. Walton Goggins' character, he's like his Western matinee idol. He's got a mixed race daughter. Now, I know Fallout is an alternative universe, but if you're looking at it from a real world perspective, back in the 1950s, you would not have a white matinee idol in a mixed race marriage. It just would not happen at all. So obviously, this is the show's way of saying we're going to kind of course correct that a little bit. And of course, other ESG elements are peppered in the first 20-30 minutes of the show. And I'm wondering, okay, where are they going with this? And of course, it kind of became very blatantly obvious why. Because now, by the way, folks, I'm just going to give you a quick spoiler here, actually. So if you want to watch the first episode of Fallout 1, okay, the TV show on Amazon, I'm going to give you a couple of spoilers. 3, 2, 1. So Ella Parnell, she plays Lucy McLean, which I thought was the most hilarious name you could pick because I thought of Die Hard 4.0. And the reason that I mention her, because obviously Pride, that website, mentioned this week that, yes, it's a quirky and it's an interesting show, but is it queer enough? Why is the lead female character not a lesbian? That's what they're implying, because she gets engaged to a man in the show, a white fella, who then turns out to be toxic. So I wonder again, Bethesda, Jonathan Nolan, Lisa Joy, what kind of message are you trying to tell us about white bad men? What's going on there? So because Lucy Parnell, or rather Lucy McLean, is a straight white female, that's not good enough. You know, you got to have her as something other than that. So that's one element of ESG. The other one, which I mentioned before, and again, how that resolved itself, well, a lot of those diverse characters got killed off in the first half an hour. And I was just laughing my head off because I thought that's why they're there. They just got hired for their color and no acting talent whatsoever, because you see them in the background and you see even the minister marrying off Lucy McLean and her toxic husband-to-be, and he doesn't even say anything. He's just there for decoration. So when you talk about ESG and forced behaviors, telling even Hollywood they've got to comply, I'm kind of glad now that people like Tariq Fancy is now coming out with these, well, how can we say, a mic drop, I suppose. Why not? I mean, that's the only other way I can phrase it.
So let's have fun.
When he joined Blackrock, Fancy says he came to the quick realization his role too was one of marketing rather than investment. If ESG strategies actually made money, the investment professionals wouldn't need not-for-profit people to come and tell them. Instead, Blackrock was shouting about the financial incentives, while failing to mention this was playing little role in returns or making any impact on the ground. The overall narrative was misleading, Fancy adds. My sense was not so much Blackrock was doing the wrong thing, but that Larry and other leaders were out there at Davos spewing a bunch of stuff they must have known wasn't true and was just aligned with their short-term financial incentives. What a big shocker. How about this, Mr. Fink? How about you stop preaching to us about ESG nonsense and just give the customer what they want, things that make them happy? Suddenly, every company discovered black people existed in 2020. It was amazing. But the truth is, if they really mean it, they're going to be doing it even when George Floyd doesn't get deleted. Since then, ESG has come to something of a reckoning. Investors have soured en masse, and money has begun to flow out of the market. In the last 3 months of 2023, global sustainable funds experienced net outflows of $2.5 billion, marking the first time ever they have insured negative territory. That shift has been accelerated by the energy shocks triggered by the Ukraine war and the flight back to the old economy of fossil fuels and steady supply. Regulators globally are also moving in and clamping down on the words like sustainability, ESG and green on investment products after greenwashing ran rampant. Of course, now, if you want to hear Larry Fink have a meltdown on an investor's call, listen to this. It's pretty funny.
I've spoken before about the fear we see today. Some of it stoked by increasingly political polarization in the world. Our industry and Blackrock have been a subject of political dialogue, mostly in the United States. We recognize some of this with being the industry leader. We have done a better job now of telling our story so that people can make decisions based on facts, not on lies and not on misinformation or politicization by others. Unfortunately, there's still others out there who put short-term politics, who continuously lie about these issues. They're putting those issues above the long-term fiduciary responsibilities. As a fiduciary, politics should never outweigh performance. I do believe that with a vast majority of our clients, our long-term fiduciary approach and performance.
So when he uses the word fiduciary from the fiduciary douchebag himself, that means putting the investors first. And yes, quite clearly he did that, but I guess the investors were hoodwinked into believing that ESG was this amazing thing. Remember back in 2007 when he had PPI? I remember being caught up in it as well. Everybody was, where if you wanted to apply for a credit card, you had to adhere to a PPI, and you're thinking, oh, what's that? And like the person on the other end of the phone will tell you, well, if you apply for this credit card, we'll give it to you. There's a little charge you got to pay. And you thought, oh, that sounds great because it'll guarantee you'd get your credit card of choice. And of course, many years later, people even like me were getting refunds because you were duped into taking on PPI. I think the word of warning here, folks, is anything with 3 letters in it, you have to really kind of beware what that is. Obviously, if I say Sweet Baby Inc., SBI, or DEI, even ESG, you better start doing the 1,000-yard stare and just getting out of there, man. You need to do that. I mean, Larry Fink, okay, if you just want to remove ESG altogether, I want to go back to the basics of what entertainment's all about. Sexy, sex, action, violence, all sells a product. No matter how you paint it, you can look at the Marvel's best years in the movies, the first 10 years from 2008 to 2018. And what was it all about? It was all about everything in there that's brought the audiences en masse to your movie theater near you. Now they don't want to do that because it's just filled with dog shit, and Hollywood all of a sudden has had a mental brain block. They can't make movies anymore. It's hilarious. I want to see big titties again on a film poster. I want to see them in a movie, in a TV show. I mean, all of a sudden now, even Sydney Sweeney complained, the lovely Miss Sweeney herself, that her co-star refused to look at her while she was doing topless scenes in anything but you. Honestly, Sydney, next time, love, hire me for your leading man or co-star of a movie. I'll make sure I'm looking, because I won't apologize for the fact that I like to see a great pair of titties in front of me, come rain, snow, or sunshine. And on that one, ladies and gentlemen, well, you can tell I'm certainly back to my good old self again, because you got to take a day off, and I really do hope you've enjoyed this video today. Kind of like the first time I've almost dedicated this one video to one specific subject, and it's great to see that Larry Fink is getting the stink kicked back in his face, because I don't know why investors thought ESG was a good thing. And when he says it's mainly a US disagreement at the moment with ESG, it's not, because everybody, especially in the pop culture sphere, is talking about it. And if you're not talking about it, get educated, people. I mean, again, the reason why you might be clicking on my video today, because I'm telling you, man, ESG, is it going away? Well, listen, don't forget that Blackrock has many shares in companies like Microsoft. Microsoft definitely wokey dokies, which is such a shame. So don't expect the ESG messaging to be disappearing from that platform anytime soon. You've got the new Fable game coming out, maybe in 3 years' time. Maybe between now and then, they might make changes to the lead character, make her more attractive. Now, if Microsoft aren't asleep at the boardroom and looking across to see what's going on with Ubisoft at the moment and their greedy practices, where they've got a Jabba the Hutt mission actually paywalled, which is ridiculous. I can't believe it. But then again, it's Ubisoft we're talking about. They're delusional. They've lost the plot completely. So I have no hope. I tell you what, Star Wars Outlaws is going to suffer a glorious death, and I just can't wait to see the demise of that horrible looking game. I think we would have all been behind it if they just altered Humbly Gonzalez's beautiful features and gave us what we want, and actually gave us a good looking game with good looking mechanics. It's got none of those. And when you got IGN and other outlets going, oh wow, this looks so amazing, it's GTA, it's going to be wonderful. GTA 6, is that going to be a woke game as well? I think there'll be elements of it, but as it's Rockstar, and it's a newly formed Rockstar.
A few moments later.
And I do beg your pardon, just had the Amazon man and dropping off some goods for me. But like I was saying, when you got companies like IGN who are just going, oh, what a great time it is for this this game is going to be Star Wars Outlaws is going to be so fantastic. It's GTA in space. No, it's not. It's just going to be a husk that's going to be floating away to a galaxy far, far away. And on that one, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video today, leave a like below, smash that like and subscribe button. And if I were you, and if you were me, just staring at Batgirl on my right-hand side, I'll catch you on the next video. Que sera me. Dear Peter, how should I live and should he go without your love?
You now make a point of that's an investment criteria for you.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at Blackrock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of
Seriously?
diverse,